this week's episode of The Rolling Girls, Nozomi and the gang find themselves in Tokyo, which happens to be an extreme caricature of any anime convention, sprinkled with a little bit of fantasy flair. This episode was different, to say the least. I don't want to say that the series pulled a bait and switch on us entirely, because they were heavily advertising that the four girls were going to be the main characters. But I gotta say, I'm disappointed that there's a huge lack of Masame, or Matcha Green, and Shigyo from this week's episode. There was a funny scene with them in the hospital, but it really didn't amount to too much aside from getting to see that indeed their little heartstones are stolen, which the heartstones themselves are kind of the cornerstone of this entire series. They're what everybody is after and what birds always seem to find. But still, this week's episode was just kind of weird and confusing and just strange. It certainly had a lot of funny and cute moments. I think the biggest strength of the Rolling Girls, however, is probably its art style and its animation. Kind of like how it blends traditional hand-drawn animation with like watercolor effects. There's a scene where they're hanging out in this hotel room and all the furniture and the backgrounds look like watercolors and almost like weird like dark strokes. It looks really interesting and almost sort of clashes with the style a little bit, but it is appealing to the eyes. The actual story this week, though, is pretty simple. They travel to Tokyo, and Tokyo has their own group of vigilantes, which are known as the Knights of the Twin Towers, and they are actually led by this really cool-looking character by the name of Thunderoad, who is this little knight who has this big thunder sword, which pretty much is the only action scene you're really going to get from this week's episode. But what's really strange about this city is just how it's run and how it looks, and like I said, it's like a big non-stop anime convention. There's even this one scene where they mention there's this big massive cloud in the sky, which apparently was created from all the people who are at this huge convention non-stop, and that makes sense. You've ever been to an anime convention? It's either hot as hell or cold as shit. The other story this week is that the one leader of the Knights of the Twin Towers is actually looking for her missing heart, but actually she's tricking the actual Rolling Girls. She's actually trying to sell these so that she can buy this big statue of this one dude with this big red afro, which also happens to have the heart stuck right into his afro. It's weird. This whole show is weird, and honestly trying to put it into words is very difficult, and I'm still not quite sure how I feel about this show yet, especially after this episode, because like I said, the first two had just a lot of action, and those two characters of Matcha Green and Shigyo, and they're really absent from this one, and I don't know, it just didn't really do that much for me in general. There is another subplot that is kind of interesting. There's this organization that's trying to collect all the hearts, and the leader of the group, this one blonde girl, apparently her daughter is Chiaya, the one blonde member of the Rolling Girls, and that's going to have some big significant effect. It sort of reminds me of the whole Satsuki and Ragyo Kiryuin relationship, which, again, this whole series still kind of has a small Kill La Kill feel, but after watching this week's episode, it's basically like the adventures of the sidekicks. That's basically what this is all about. You know, it's basically the sidekick growing and becoming the hero, so to speak. And maybe that'll be interesting to watch, but this episode really didn't excite me all that much. So, what's the rundown on this week's episode of The Rolling Girls, the anime series that you are not watching? Well, it's okay. You know, I just need to learn a little bit more about the world and how it works and how this whole vigilante mob thing goes. And just the actual hearts themselves. Like, what's the deal with them? What do they do? Are they like in Legend of Zelda where they refill your hearts or some shit? Like, I don't know. They're not really explaining. Apparently all of the best have the hearts, and that maybe gives them their powers to do all those crazy attacks, but they really haven't specified anything. What is kind of interesting, though, is that at the beginning of the episode, they do show that, like, some of the characters are going to have, like, special weapons with cool abilities. Like, Thunderoad had this sword which could electrocute a lot of people and just her enemies but not hurt her friends, and I thought that was pretty cool. But that was really the only standout action scene from this week's episode. Really, this one was just played for laughs, and I don't like the character of the leader of the Thunderoad. She's such a conniving little bitch. Just the way she turned everything around on them, made the Rolling Girls go look for the heart while at the same time she got both of them and tried to sell them. It's just really underhanded. And I thought it was really funny how they were desperately trying to look for the heart and they're just aimlessly looking through the grass. I just thought that was very funny, and again, just kind of cute and adorable of the characters, who that's really what they're there to do, is just be cute and adorable. Otherwise, like I said, I think the biggest strength of the show is the artwork and the animation. but I'm just not really digging the story all that much yet. I want to see how the story is going to evolve, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to keep following the series or not. I'm going to give it another couple episodes, but really, I'm not too thrilled with what I'm seeing. But still, like I said, the animation and the art style and all that stuff, that's really good. That's high caliber stuff, but still just didn't really like this. It did not do much for me at all. Maybe you enjoyed it. If you like it, please watch it and enjoy it, but for me, no thanks. Thank you guys for watching my review. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And before you guys leave, please tell me what you thought about this week's episode of The Rolling Girls. I'm still confused after watching this week's episode, but how do you guys feel about it? Did you have a favorite scene, favorite character, new character who was introduced, and what do you want to see from the rest of this very strange anime series? Before you guys leave, remember you guys can subscribe to our channel by clicking on the icon right up here. You guys can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter.